For 43 years, humanity stood as the anomaly of the stars. First contact had not ended in fire. It had begun with mathematics, shared star charts, and cautious translations between minds shaped by different suns. The Concordat, an advanced coalition of alien civilizations, expected another volatile species clawing for territory. Instead, they found a civilization tempered by its own brutal history. Humanity offered something unexpected, restraint backed by capability. Trade routes formed between Sol and distant systems. Human medical research extended alien lifespans by decades. Concordat energy matrices stabilized Earth's climate and powered cities without combustion. Cultural exchanges flooded networks with music scored in unfamiliar scales, architecture grown instead of built, philosophies carved from worlds with triple suns and oceanic skies. Human engineers reverse-adapted alien alloys within months. Human artists reinterpreted alien epics in weeks. Human diplomats mastered 3 non-human negotiation frameworks in under a year. The Concordat took note. At the center of it all stood Earth's chief diplomat, the architect of trust. Calm under scrutiny. Precise with language. Relentless in principle. She argued that humanity's greatest strength was not firepower, but memory. Humans remembered what unchecked escalation cost. They had lived it. The summit aboard the neutral orbital station Harmonia was meant to formalize full Concordat membership. Equal standing. Mutual defense. Shared technological vaults. For the first time, humanity would not be the outsider looking in. It would sit at the central table. The broadcast reached 13 systems simultaneously. She had just finished outlining a joint exploration initiative beyond map space when the shot was fired. There was no dramatic warning. No shouted threat. A single pulse round pierced her chest, vaporizing atmosphere in a silent bloom before emergency fields sealed the breach. Her body collapsed mid-sentence. Delegates froze. Security drones pivoted too late. Footage replayed within seconds. The assassin moved with calculated efficiency, armor profile consistent with Vishari military design. The weapon's energy signature matched Vishari plasma pulse architecture. The escape route exploited a maintenance corridor previously logged as compromised by Vishari technicians. The suspect vanished. Across the Concordat, disbelief rippled outward. On Earth, grief ignited. Analysis teams verified the data in under 5 minutes. Weapon signature Vishari. Armor composition Vishari composite weave. Biometric distortion field, standard Vishari tactical issue. The conclusion formed itself. Emergency session convened under the United Earth Defense Council. Civilian leadership, military command, intelligence directors, linked in real time. There were proposals for inquiry, for joint investigation, for diplomatic pause. They were tabled. Humanity had spent decades proving it could coexist among the stars. It had opened its archives, shared its sciences, offered partnership instead of paranoia. And in return, its highest representative had been executed during a peace summit. The symbolism was unmistakable. The Concordat transmitted urgent communications urging restraint. Vishari officials denied involvement, citing internal sabotage, calling for cooperative forensic review. They requested time. Time was not granted. Humanity's response was not emotional chaos. It was alignment. Defense networks shifted to readiness posture. Fleet admirals recalibrated patrol vectors. Deep storage arsenals unlocked under biometric consensus. Strategic AIs moved from passive analysis to active modeling. There was no public declaration of vengeance. No broadcasted fury. Only a single classified directive prepared for activation. For decades it had existed as a contingency, debated, refined, quietly maintained by generations who hoped it would never be needed. Now the calculus had changed. Humanity had entered the galaxy in peace, aware that peace was a privilege, not a guarantee. It had studied its allies carefully, not from distrust, but from experience. History had taught humans a simple truth: capability deterred catastrophe. The assassination reframed every prior assumption. If a member of the Concordat could strike at the heart of Earth's diplomacy without warning, then humanity's survival could not depend on good faith alone. The final vote required unanimous authorization across Earth's unified command structure. It passed without dissent. Within seconds, encrypted signals propagated through military relays across Seoul. A protocol name surfaced from classified archives and moved into active status. Humanity did not demand justice. It prepared to enforce it. Protocol designation: Total War Authorization. Activation time: 2 minutes, 11 seconds after unanimous confirmation. Humanity did not mobilize in anger. It transitioned. Orbital shipyards above Earth, Mars, Luna, and Titan halted all civilian construction mid-cycle. Exploration cruisers were stripped to structural frames and refitted with spinal mast drivers. Terraforming barges were converted into armored supply carriers. Civilian fabrication arrays rerouted from consumer production to munitions output without public announcement. Strategic AIs previously restricted to predictive logistics were granted expanded autonomy under wartime parameters. They began mapping Vishari territory in layered probability models, fleet compositions, defense grid intervals, energy distribution nodes, industrial bottlenecks. Within hours, every known Vishari system had a collapse forecast. The Concordat transmitted emergency appeals for investigation. Joint tribunals were proposed. Shared forensic teams offered access to station data cores. Vishari officials denied responsibility and demanded cooperative review. Earth acknowledged receipt. No further reply followed. Human fleets translated into Vishari border space in synchronized waves. There was no prelude transmission, no declaration of intent. The first targets were not cities but infrastructure, long-range sensor arrays, interstellar relay stations, outer defense platforms. Blind the system. Isolate it. Contain escalation. The opening engagement lasted 9 minutes. Human vessels did not rely on static formations. They shifted vectors continuously, adapting to counterfire in real time. When Vishari cruisers attempted flanking maneuvers, predictive AIs anticipated trajectory adjustments before execution. Human interceptor swarms fragmented into autonomous clusters, overwhelming shield harmonics through distributed frequency variation. Vishari command networks attempted cyber intrusion. They found hardened architectures designed during humanity's own centuries of digital warfare. Counter-intrusion routines traced attack origins and injected cascading logic faults into enemy coordination grids. Within 24 hours, 3 Vishari frontier systems were functionally neutralized. Total War Authorization removed conventional restraints. Black Ops units deployed atmosphere denial packages against fortified military worlds. Relativistic impactors targeted orbital shipyards at fractions of light speed, rendering defensive interception statistically negligible. Covert insertion teams sabotaged planetary energy cores, forcing grid collapses without prolonged sieges. Human casualty projections remained within acceptable wartime thresholds. Vishari projections did not. Across the Concordat, strategic assessments shifted from concern to alarm. The coalition had observed humanity as innovative traders and disciplined diplomats. They had not modeled this version, one that escalated with surgical clarity and industrial scale. Human production capacity exceeded prior estimates by 30%. Adaptive armor systems recalibrated mid-battle to counter Vishari plasma variants. Damaged vessels rerouted power dynamically, sacrificing non-essential compartments to preserve combat viability. Retreating enemy formations discovered interdiction fields already deployed along probable escape corridors. Humanity did not broadcast triumph. It executed objectives. Halfway to the Vishari core territories, extinction-level outcomes entered strategic forecasts. Civilian evacuation corridors became overwhelmed. Internal Vishari communications reflected confusion more than organized resistance. They had prepared for retaliation, not eradication. On Luna, within a secured analytics division, a junior military systems analyst reviewed archived forensic data from the assassination for cross-theater pattern alignment. It was routine verification, confirmation that strategic response remained anchored to verified causality. A discrepancy surfaced in the weapon's signature log. Timestamp encoding embedded within the pulse architecture did not align with known Vishari manufacturing cycles. Isotopic decay ratios within the energy modulation chamber suggested localized sourcing inconsistent with Vishari industrial standards. The anomaly was minor, statistically dismissible within combat tempo. It was not dismissed. Further analysis traced material composition markers to a decommissioned human fabrication facility declassified 12 years earlier. The alloy lattice within the assassin's weapon matched a Sol-based production template archived under restricted access. The report escalated through secure channels. By the time it reached senior command, 12 additional Vishari systems had fallen. The conclusion formed with uncomfortable clarity. The weapon that killed Earth's chief diplomat bore Vishari design. But it had been built within human territory. The fleets did not slow. Momentum had achieved strategic saturation. War industries operated at irreversible throughput. Public support across Earth registered at historic highs. Unity had crystallized around retribution. Yet within command circles, a new variable entered calculations. If the assassination had been engineered internally, then humanity was no longer conducting retaliation. It was executing someone else's objective. The anomaly report did not circulate publicly. It moved through restricted channels, intelligence directors, select admirals, internal oversight nodes long buried beneath layers of classification. The war continued at full velocity while a smaller, quieter investigation began beneath it. The isotopic markers were irrefutable. The alloy lattice embedded in the assassin's weapon matched a human fabrication template retired from active service but never fully dismantled. The pulse architecture mirrored Vishari design with precision, but the internal modulation sequence carried a manufacturing timestamp encoded in a human cipher. Someone had replicated Vishari technology flawlessly. Someone with access. A covert analysis cell formed without formal announcement. No external communications. No digital trace beyond closed quantum lines. Analysts reconstructed procurement chains tied to the decommissioned facility. Budget discrepancies surfaced, minor reallocations across multiple departments, each individually insignificant, collectively coordinated. Personnel files revealed disappearances masked as transfers. Research initiatives flagged as abandoned had quietly persisted under renamed directives. A pattern emerged across decades. Project designation, Aegis Ascendant. Its founding doctrine predated First Contact. Humanity's long-term survival, it argued, required strategic supremacy. Alliances were temporary. Coalitions shifted. Shared governance diluted control. Peace created dependency. Dominance eliminated uncertainty. The Concordat, unified and technologically superior in aggregate, represented a ceiling on human expansion. As long as humanity remained a member state among equals, it would never define the terms of the galaxy. Aegis proposed an alternative path. Engineer an external threat. Trigger unified outrage. Mobilize under existential justification. Expand military capacity beyond peacetime limits. Secure strategic territory under the banner of self-defense. The diplomat had been an obstacle. She advocated integration, transparency, shared command structures. She had argued successfully for opening restricted human research vaults to Concordat review. That level of trust undermined Aegis' long-term calculus. Her assassination would accomplish three objectives simultaneously: martyrdom to unify Earth, justification for total mobilization, and plausible blame directed at a militarized alien faction. The Vishari were selected precisely because their technology could be mimicked and their internal politics were already strained within the Concordat. The investigation cell confirmed embedded operatives within defense procurement, strategic logistics, and intelligence oversight. Aegis was not a rogue faction. It was a distributed ideology embedded within the system. Meanwhile, fleet projections indicated Vishari civilization approaching irreversible collapse. Civilian infrastructure damage exceeded strategic necessity. The war machine, once activated, optimized for completion. Encrypted evidence packages were transmitted to High Command. Reactions divided along predictable lines. Some commanders dismissed the findings as disinformation, an enemy attempt to fracture momentum. Others recognized the data integrity and understood the implication: humanity had been maneuvered into annihilating an ally for strategic ambition. A single fleet admiral requested direct verification of source materials. After independent review, he initiated a restricted broadcast to select task force leaders. He did not order a ceasefire. He recalculated target priorities. If Aegis intended to weaponize humanity's capacity for total war, then the capacity itself was not the flaw. The flaw was the assumption that humanity, once unleashed, could not change course. Humanity's strength had never been blind aggression. It was adaptation under pressure. New intelligence markers were integrated into fleet AIs. Hidden communication relays previously categorized as civilian were flagged for correlation against Aegis-linked funding streams. Deep space sensor sweeps recalibrated to identify installations unregistered within official defense maps. The investigation cell transmitted final confirmation: multiple covert shipyards operating beyond Concordat oversight, supplied through falsified Vishari trade manifests. The war was not what it appeared. Humanity was not avenging betrayal. It was executing a script written by its own extremists. The Admiral issued updated directives across encrypted channels. Primary objective unchanged: maintain operational superiority. Secondary objective: locate and neutralize Aegis infrastructure. The fleets continued forward. But their true target had shifted. Fleet Admiral Kale did not announce a reversal. He issued updated parameters. To the broader command network, the offensive continued. To select flag officers, new target matrices appeared, coordinates flagged through Aegis-linked financial trails and falsified logistics chains. Hidden depots beyond Concordat oversight. Autonomous shipyards masked as mineral extraction platforms. Data relays piggybacking on civilian trade routes. Human fleets adjusted vectors without public explanation. The next wave of strikes did not fall on Vishari population centers. They fell on installations that did not officially exist. The first covert shipyard was eliminated in 14 minutes. Its defense codes matched human encryption standards. Its command staff attempted to transmit override authority under emergency wartime clauses. Authorization was denied. Simultaneously, encrypted evidence packages were transmitted to Concordat High Council and Vishari Command. Full forensic breakdown. Manufacturing records. Budget diversions. Project Aegis Ascendant Doctrine files. There was no apology attached. Only data. Human strike groups within Vishari territory shifted to Precision Doctrine. Planetary bombardment schedules were suspended. Military infrastructure remained valid targets. Civilian grids were excluded. Evacuation corridors were broadcast and left unobstructed. The shift was not mercy. It was control. Aegis leadership responded predictably. They initiated contingency escalation, attempting to trigger automated retaliation protocols designed to force continued conflict. Sleeper algorithms embedded within human fleet AIs activated. They failed. Admiral Kale had anticipated internal sabotage. Independent verification layers were installed before updated directives propagated. Compromised systems were isolated and purged mid-operation. Across multiple systems, human and Vishari forces, hours earlier locked in lethal engagement, began exchanging tactical data against shared targets. Trust did not form instantly. It formed under necessity. Joint operations dismantled the remaining covert yards. Aegis command bunkers, buried within uncharted asteroid clusters, were exposed through correlated supply anomalies. Their defensive fleets were advanced, built with the very doctrine they had engineered humanity to unleash. They were outmatched. Because they had planned for a humanity driven by rage. They faced one driven by clarity. The final Aegis stronghold transmitted a manifesto before its shields collapsed. It declared that peace was stagnation, that only dominance guaranteed survival, that the galaxy respected strength alone. Human forces breached the installation without orbital sterilization. Command staff were captured alive. Public revelation followed. Every file, every projection, every engineered assumption laid before Earth's population and the Concordat alike. There was no attempt to bury the scale of devastation already inflicted. Humanity had launched total war without restraint. That fact remained. But so did the second fact. It had stopped itself. The Shari extinction projections were recalculated downward. Reconstruction accords were drafted under supervision from both sides. Human industrial output pivoted from munitions to infrastructure at the same speed it had once shifted toward destruction. The Concordat revised its assessment of Sol. Humanity was not uniquely violent. It was uniquely decisive. When threatened, it mobilized with terrifying efficiency. When deceived, it investigated. When wrong, it corrected course, even at the height of advantage. The Aegis architects had believed dominance required perpetual escalation. They misunderstood their own species. Humanity did not prove superiority through annihilation. It proved it through choice. The galaxy would remember the day mankind launched total war and showed no restraint. It would remember even more clearly the moment mankind chose restraint on its own terms, and remained the most dangerous power among the stars.